Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a podcast for all what's going on in the Tri-County, South Florida condo market. Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. I do it every Monday at 4 o'clock live with my co-host, my partner, no one else but Jenny Huertas. She's a broker owner over at CVR Realty. Make sure you check out our website, CVRRealty.com. Before I introduce her, let me tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about Sunny Isles Beach. We're talking about the Billionaires Row. At least that's what they like to call it. We'll see how long the prices last. Why? Because we just took a deep dive into the numbers, and it suggests the Sunny Isles Beach market, despite all of the shiny objects and the bells and whistles, it's not doing very well. 22 months of supply with about 40 days left in the winter buying season, and price per square foot down year over year by 6%. Jenny and I are going to kick it around. We're going to tell you what's going on, why it's happening, and where the deals might be. Jenny Huertas, CVR Realty. How's it going? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Peter. Ready to talk about Sunny Isles. I like that place. I like it because I saw condos there, so I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do, Jenny. If anybody's watching this for the first time, basically, Jenny and I go back and forth. A lot of the stuff that we discuss tends to be like, let's call it ahead of the curve type of information. Today we're talking about a newsletter we put out a little bit late. Sound familiar? Put it out a little bit late. We just hit it with the market, and the numbers suggesting, Jenny, are what we're seeing is sales are up about 11%. Price per unit is up about 11%. Price per square foot, however, it's down about 6%, Jenny, in the overall market. Now, if we take a look at the vintage units, those are units at least 30 years old or older, that market's not doing very well whatsoever, Jenny. So for the newsletter, we talked about the overall market, which you and I are going to discuss. For this podcast, we're going to get into the vintage side, those units that have been impacted dramatically by the collapse of the Surfside Tower, Champlain Tower South, which is located, I don't know, maybe about 2 miles down A1A or Collins Avenue or Jimmy Buffett Boulevard, whatever the hell you want to call it. So the market's got some real challenges. The other thing we'll sort of talk to, but, you know, Jenny's not a scientist. I'm not a scientist. We're going to talk about, layman's terms, the buildings that are sinking based on the University of Miami study. People in Sunny Isles, they don't want to talk about it. That's why we're talking about it. And where does the report come from? Comes from the University of Miami, and it was published by the Miami Herald. So we're going to get into all of that. Why? Because we give you straight talk. We're not doing any of the sugarcoating here. We'll tell you what's going on in Sunny Isles, talking about all about the latest market statistics. But before we do, Jenny, I want to get into sort of the history, the background, the camels that they have in Sunny Isles Beach.
Are you still there?
Jenny, tell people about the camels. People are like, camels? What the hell are you talking about? Sunny Isles Beach doesn't have camels.
Yeah, it was like a dormant piece of beautiful beach where they have all these motels, and they were selling. What I remember, you just go by, and it was like cheap hotels in one side and all these stores for stuff to take to the beach on the other side, which is still there. But they were start buying some of this land and start doing these condos. They have some condo terminations there because they have one that was called Varadero 1, Varadero 2, a lot of Cubans that had places in Coral Gables. They had the beach place for the weekend in Sunny Isles. That was the vibe. And then the big names came and started buying them out and made these super beautiful luxury towers in one side. And Peter knows better than me how they were able to reach an agreement with the city where they can go all the way up. You just build it up. It doesn't matter how tall it is. And that's why you see one side of the beach is like the 1%ers and the other side of the beach is the rest of the people. So that's why that's the history. It wasn't planned like that. It wasn't like that. It was created because the beach there is a beautiful one.
Is there anybody who, if you don't know, Sunny Isles Beach is tucked up all the way hell up on the Miami-Dade County, Barrier Island in the Northeast area. So let me kind of give you geography, and we are going to show you a map. You got the Broward County border. As soon as you go south, you run into a small little town of all single-family houses, including a house where Eric Clapton, the famous musician, recorded an album. In fact, the album is actually named after the particular house where he spent the time when he was recording it. I think he also did studio work over in North Miami, where there's a very famous record studio. I think it's called well, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But anyways, you got Broward County line, which is primarily Hallandale Beach. Then you go Golden Beach. Then you get into Sunny Isles. It's about 2.5 miles long, Jenny. 2.5 miles long. It goes from Golden Beach all the way down to Hallover Beach Park. If you were to go over to the mainland, what would it effectively be? It'd probably be about ballpark 200 and maybe like 201 or so.
207.
Yeah.
So,
207 on the mainland. Now, if you go to the mainland, you go over a causeway called the Lehman Causeway, or you could go all the way down south to the 163rd Street Causeway. You go over the causeway, you're going to run into Aventura to the northern side, and on the southern side, it'll be North Miami Beach. There's two cities up there, two separate municipalities. One's called North Miami Beach, the other one's called North Miami. Basically, 163rd would be the southern entrance if you're coming from the mainland, and then the Lehman Causeway would be the northern entrance. And obviously, it also connects to from Bell Harbor. So if you're coming from Bell Harbor, theoretically, you drive from Miami Beach, you go north in the surf side, you go into Bell Harbor. Remember, Balharbour. Bell Harbor's expensive, so they add an extra letter in there. So it's Bell Harbor with a U, O-U-R. Then you get in Hallover Beach, which, by the way, is where the nude beach is. So any of you people who are into those nude beaches, Hallover Beach is where you want to go immediately south of Sunny Isles Beach. Then we'll run into Sunny Isles Beach. It's a rectangular piece of, or a rectangular municipality. Got like 22,000 people, Jenny. There's nobody there. It's got like 20,000 condos. So there's like more than, there's one condo for basically every person, if you will. I'm being a little sarcastic. We'll get into some of the numbers. But that's basically what it is. And Jenny, you hit on a good point. You talked about how you got all these sky rises, these high rises, these towers that are growing to the moon. And you know what the advantage of Sunny Isles is? You go across the street, you got shitty little retail centers where you got a Pollo Tropical, you got a KFC, you got a Burger King. So you can pay $5 million for a condo across the street and get a BOGO, buy one, get one, Whopper. How does that sound, Jen?
Oh, they're going to need it with the maintenance fees. I'm just kidding.
Jenny, listen, the reason we're taking a look at Sunny Isles Beach right today is we're doing a tour this Saturday. It'll be our, we're winding down the winter buying season. Jenny, 39 days to go in the winter buying season. By the time we hit May 1st, what do we got? We got heat. We got humidity, and we got hurricane warnings right around the corner when hurricane season starts in June. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, people will shop for a condo between November and April. Why? They come here for an event, Jenny. They come here for vacation. They come here for a cruise. While they're here, they fall in love with the place, and they start asking themselves, maybe we ought to make an investment. Maybe we'll Airbnb it. Maybe we'll retire into it. Maybe we'll relocate here. People start shopping. They kick the tires. They end up ultimately closing because of the process of searching, going under contract, getting finance, doing the due diligence. A lot of them end up closing in the summer buying season, which goes from May through October. Traditionally, May, June, July, there's going to be a lot of closings. August, dead silent. Nobody's here. Everybody goes up to the Hamptons. They go to Canada. Well, depending, I don't know if the Canadians will all of a sudden, given what's going on with the current presidential administration. They go over to Europe. They go different places. So we go radio silent. In August, September, it starts to heat up again. Once kids are back in school, people are more focused on work. The summertime's over, and then we get the whole season going again. But Jenny, if you're a seller, you're looking at some difficult times right now because of the Champlain Tower, the collapse back in June of 2021. You had nearly 100 people die. You had $1 billion settlement paid out to the families of victims. And what's happening is, there was starts and stops. Now, these inspections that had to be done as a result of legislation that went into place, people have to start funding it 2026. And you know what's happening, Jenny? People are heading for the exits, and they are heading hard for the exits in Sunny Isles Beach. So that's why we're doing a tour this Saturday. We're going to take people all around. We're going to give you a list of all the condo projects that exist in Sunny Isles Beach. We're going to teach you Islandlands condo projects. We're going to help you identify what's an opportunity and what is a pitfall. And all of that we discussed. It's a 3-hour tour. Not like Gilligan's Island, if any of you remember that show. 3-hour tour. 3-hour tour. We're going to walk somewhere to the ballpark about 4 miles or so, and we will help you to understand what's going on at Sunny Isles Beach Marketplace. If you want information on the tour, go to miamicondo.club or go to miamicondoclub.eventbrite.com. Eventbrite, Jenny, is our ticket broker, so if anybody wants to go there, go to miamicondoclub.eventbrite.com. Jenny, you looking forward to going up to Sunny Isles Beach and seeing the $10 million condos across from the Pollo Tropical where you could get a troppy chop for $7?
Absolutely. It's always a lot of fun.
And what's your favorite part about Sunny Isles Beach, Jenny?
The beach itself, it's just, no, seriously, for me, it's one of the best that there are. I could tell you that's the thing that I like the most. For some buyers, they like the southern part of the island, of the stretch, Barrier Island, because it's close to Bal Harbor. And the northern part is very close to Aventura. So it depends on where you are. You're in the middle of it, then you have to drive like a little bit to get to the amenities, which is Bal Harbor or Aventura. A lot of people like it because it's in between Miami-Dade and Broward County. It's not too far from the Hollywood Fort Lauderdale Airport. So there is some people that really like it. If you like it, you probably move around there. Don't come at all to the city because you go to those two main hubs that they have there, or go to Fort Lauderdale. So they tend to stay up there. The people don't move around too much. Every time that they want to come to Miami, they definitely hate it. Or vice versa. People don't want to go there just for a restaurant or to go to the beach because there are many options here too as well. So it is like the people like to stay there.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jenny. A lot of times when you look at South Beach, and I say condo pricing for luxury units, it really begins south of 5th in South Beach, in Miami Beach. South Beach is a neighborhood. It's a submarket of Miami Beach. And really all the pricing begins between 5th and effectively government cut. The way the streets work on the Barrier Island is 0. It's going to be South Point Drive. And then you have 1st Street and you continue northward. Then you get to 87 Terrace. At 87 Terrace, you get to the divider of Surfside to the north, Miami Beach to the south. Then you get to 96. When you get to 96, you're separated between Surfside to the south and Bal Harbor to the north. Remember, Bal Harbor's ritzy, so they got an extra letter. They have a U in it. If you were to make a right, Jenny, at that boundary, which is a boundary of Bal Harbor and Surfside, if you were to make a left, you'd go over a little bridge, you end up at a place called Bay Harbor Islands. No U, Jenny, no U. They're not as expensive. No U in Bay Harbor Islands, a U in Bal Harbor. Let's say you continue up Collins, A1A, Jimmy Buffett Boulevard, whatever you want to call it. You go over a little inlet. Once you go over that little inlet, it's a little bridge, famous bridge. If anybody's ever seen the movie Cocaine Cowboys, famous scene in there where some of the cocaine importers, what they did is they leased out a place right off of the inlet. They put some people in there, and every time they were bringing a shipment of cocaina or whatever you want to call it into the intercoastal waterway, they'd have somebody watching. And in one case, actually, this smugglers bringing in all this coke, they run out of gas. The Coast Guard comes and they actually tow them in.
No.
They tow them into the inlet. Yeah, so as soon as you leave Bal Harbor, you go over a little bridge, which is the inlet. Then you get in the Hallover Beach Park. On the east side is where the nude beach is, and on the west side is where they have a marina where you can take you can hire boats to go out fishing. A lot of people do kites out there. You continue northward, then you suddenly get into Sunny Isles Beach. If you were to continue through Sunny Isles Beach, you'd run in this small little town called Golden Beach. And then just north of that, you got Hallandale Beach. Then you got Hollywood Beach. Then you got Dania Beach. Then you got the Port Everglades. And ultimately, you end up in Fort Lauderdale. I think that kind of lays out the way the Barrier Island works, no, John?
Yeah, you did. Actually, it was very funny when I was taking clients there. So you go through 5 cities before you get to the end of when you start going to Broward. You go, 3 areas: Miami Beach, then you go to Surfside, then you go to Val Harbor, then you go to Sunny Isles, then you go to Hollywood finally. So
yes,
but they're very small stretches of it's not too long in reality. That's what I like that. And what everybody don't like is actually the traffic, because they are building a lot, but there is no those ways to get out of there on the high season, which is winter. I think Sunny Isles is a lot of second homes, and people come here for a few weeks a year. That's what it became on the luxury side.
So Jenny, I just pulled up the map. Let's give everybody context in case they don't know where the hell Sunny Isles Beach is. This is Fort Lauderdale Airport, okay? That's Port Everglades up there. Then you're going to see Fort Lauderdale. For instance, if you guys want to go watch cricket, I love cricket, but hey, listen, I'm really pissed at the Major League Cricket. It's a cricket league. It's in its 3rd season. They play in Lauderhill, where they have the cricket ground, the first internationally recognized cricket ground in the United States. They gave us a miss this year. They're not coming to Lauderhill. They're sticking out in the West Coast. They're doing Oakland. They're doing LA, and they're doing Texas.
Wow, I'm sorry, Pete.
Yeah, so they are not coming here. Basically, they're flipping the bird to everybody who's a cricket fan who lives on this coast. So I made a comment. I said they ought to rename the league. Instead of Major League Cricket, it ought to be called West Coast Cricket League, because who's interested in it? But anyways, that's where the cricket ground is. So that would be over in Lauderhill, which is going to be up here. We got the swap shop. We'll continue on. Then we get into Port Everglades. This is where you catch cruises or you go through the cargo terminal. We discussed it all last week. Then we got Dania Beach, Jenny. We got Hollywood. We got Hallandale. We have Golden Beach. Then we run into Sunny Isles Beach, Haulover Beach. You guys will have Aventura, which is going to be located right over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Give you guys some
zoom
context.
in. That's what I was going to ask you to do.
Yep, there we go. So, Gulfstream Park, the racetrack. That's where we got Gulfstream. We got the gambling, stuff like that. But you can see this is Aventura. Aventura is known because of its mall right over here. This is going to be Aventura Mall. This is the Lehman Causeway, named after a congressional representative who had a lot of juice. And then as soon as we cross over that little inlet, we're going to get into Sunny Isles Beach up north. These are all going to be single-family houses. These are all going to be condos. Jenny, what's interesting about in and around this area is that a lot of it's all man-made. This is all from dredging. You know, all these little finger islands and stuff you see here, a lot of this stuff has simply been dredged. What do they say? They're not making any more real estate. Well, they did before. They 100% did before. They did it throughout South Florida. Why? Because waterfront sells for top dollar.
Yes, exactly. What is unique, I think, in those condos in Sunny Isles, when they started developing, I remember that they were the first condos, buildings that have the flow-through view. So you have the ocean, and then you have, because they have a lot of waterways and parks on the other side. So if you are on the north end of Sunny Isles, so you are on the south end, you have views of the water because you have Polita Park and Hanover Park on the south, and then you have that, like a lagoon or whatever in Aventura or around there, the waterways. So that's when they started building the first. I don't remember. Do you remember Pinnacle? I think it was the name of the condo I saw. The Pinnacle. Yep. That was the first one that I saw the flow through. So the new developers, all of them had the same concept.
They all had the same concept. Everybody, I'm showing you the inlet, the Haulover Inlet. This is where in Cocaine Cowboys, you guys ever watched the documentary? Somebody was living up here in the Harbor House. They didn't want to put him in the penthouse according to the documentary. They didn't want to be too over the top, so they put him in the floor below. And people have basically sat here, and the Coast Guard towed in some vessel that ran out of gas that was importing cocaine. And then once you get into the inlet, you're able to do what you want. You can see here, Jenny, Bay Harbor Islands, the
Yeah.
East Island is multifamily. The West Island is going to be single family. Jenny, what is that I see right there? What is this I'm looking at, Jen? That's Indian Creek. This is where the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, this is where the Tom Bradys, this is where Julio Iglesias used to have a place. This is where Kyle Icahn, the fixture on Wall Street. This is where they all are, everybody. You guys keep hearing about all these billionaires that are coming down here buying single-family houses and stuff like that. There's about 40 houses, 50 houses. Their police force has got boats. And there's this one little bridge to get there. Primarily, a lot of people get there via boat. They got a golf course in the middle, but you got Bay Harbor Islands immediately northeast of it. And we got Surfside, Jenny. We got Surfside to the east, and then Miami Beach boundary is going to be right around here, where you got a project called 87 Park that went up, and then we get into Surfside. This is where the tower went down. Surfside Tower, the Champlain Tower south. That's where it went down. And then you guys see Miami Beach. Let me just give you a zoom, just give you context. This will be North Beach area. Then you're going to have Middle Beach. And then we get into South Beach. And then again, Fisher Island and Government Cut. Cut. So Jen, everything looks real close. If you get on Google, it's like, it's right here. The reality is you only got so many ways over. You can take the MacArthur Causeway. You can take the Julia Tuttle. You can take the 79th Street Causeway. It's still called Kennedy Causeway. We'll see if President Trump renames it to the Trump Kennedy Causeway, just like he did with the Performing Arts Center, but in Washington. That's a different story. Then we get up here, Jen. We got the the Broad Causeway. That's taking you from North Miami. And then we got 163rd. And then we got the Lehman Causeway. And then the next way over is going to be Hellendale. So what everybody probably can see from this is ultimately, you only got a few ways to go east-west, and that really seems to be the big issue when you get to the Barrier Island. And Jenny said that people don't tend to move around. They tend to just go north-south, and that's why. You guys can see these causeways. There's very few of them. So ultimately, if you're in Sunny Isles, you're there because you want to be there. Jenny, I would argue one of the reasons people go to Sunny Isles is that they want the beach. South Beach has got a bunch of old product. A lot of the product is old, and the stuff that does get built, there's not as much of it. Where in Sunny Isles, they were putting up tower after tower after tower after tower. So you could basically get the latest and greatest technology on the ocean. But the push-pull was you had to go to Sunny Isles Beach. And if you wanted to get anywhere, chances are it's easier to go north than it is to go south, simply because of congestion. What would you say to that take on it?
Yeah, I agreed. Some of the things that happened on these years, the last 10 years maybe, is that when they started developing in Sunny Isles, the luxury towers, the pricey places were expensive, but not as expensive at Bal Harbor. So it was a cheaper alternative to Bal Harbor, but it's still in the vicinity of Bal Harbor. And then below Bal Harbor in Surfside, they start knocking down on these buildings and do a super, super luxury, which it was like, while a condo in let's say in 2020, 2018, on those years, the average price per square foot in a newer product was $1,500. In Sunny Isles, it was like $3,000 in Surfside and Bal Harbor. So it was a cheaper alternative to get latest technology, beautiful designs, and very tall towers. So that's what I think that they made, such a boom, because it was a boom, then a bust, then a boom again, and then we'll see what happens.
And then we'll see what happened. Jenny, here's the Aventura Mall. A lot of people know the Aventura Mall, especially around the holiday season. This place is slammed.